Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting to order. First order of business is always to read the Open Public Meeting Statement. So in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of the public, any public affecting their interest or is discussed or acted upon. I'm going to back up a little bit to make sure I get the whole public announcement. To ensure the right of the public to have the advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School Districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the Chatham clerks of the borough and the township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the Independent Press. Mr. DeCola, would you mind doing roll call?
Mr. Gilfillan. Here. Mr. Belvin. Here. Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Thomas. Ms. Crowley.
Here.
Mr. Franz.
Here.
Ms. King.
Here.
Mr. Nonaker. Ms. Warren.
Here.
7 present and a vote.
Would everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and take your mics off, please? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's a cold, dreary night, but Happy New Year and thank you for attending. I don't have any opening comments right now, but I will have additional comments at the beginning of board business and right before the public commentary. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton to Dr. LaSousa.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. We have two presentations tonight, one from Darren Groh to present the changes to the Chatham High School Program of Studies for the 2015-16 school year, and then a second from Ms. Jill Jaworski, who will do the same for the Chatham Middle School Program of Studies. I just want to make one brief note before I ask Mr. Groh to come to the mic, or Ms. Jaworski, whoever wants to go first. And that is that we have several retirements on the agenda tonight. I couldn't do justice to these folks who have made major contributions to the district, but I did just want to make note of Helen Kamba, who's someone I've worked closely with for the past number of years. She's our longest tenured or running supervisor. She's been in her role for about 15 years. And when someone retires, it's always interesting to get a little peek into history. So she began in the district at Lum Avenue School and actually closed that building when it was Chatham Borough Middle School. And then went on to teach at both Milton and at Lafayette before working in just about all the schools in the district other than the high school for the past 15 years. So just wanted to thank her for her service to the district and kind of marvel at the history that some of these folks take with them when they end up submitting their resignation for the purpose of retirement. So having said that, I will welcome Mr. Groh, I think it is, to the stage, and I will just set up the projector.
Thank you, Dr. LaSousa, for inviting me to present our 2015-2016 Program of Studies here to the board. It's always an exciting time. Although we don't have too many changes moving forward next year, we are excited about the new courses that we are looking to offer to our students come September 2015. One of the things that haven't changed or that hasn't changed are the number of credits that any high school student in the state of New Jersey must complete in the variety of areas that are shown on the slide presentation, which is 120. So over the course of 4 years, each student must complete these credits at a minimum in order to successfully graduate from a New Jersey public school. Many of our students, if they took a full schedule for 4 years, would be at about 160 credits completed. At the Chatham High School, we have about 85% of our students take a study hall each year, but all of our students obviously graduate with the requisite number of credits, which is 120. You'll also notice at the bottom of the slide that successfully pass the PARC in math or English at least 1 year. Right now, that's the standard, so over the course, well, for next year, each of our juniors must pass the math and the English. If they don't, there are a number of alternatives if a student wasn't to pass it, but we do know that after next year that there could be changes as we go through testing this year, which is the first year that testing is mandatory with PARC. Course offerings at the high school, our core requirement levels are at our college prep, our honors, and our advanced placement. We have electives that round out a student's schedule. Electives are found in our core subject areas: art, business, computer education, design and media technology, family consumer science, music, and theater. And then we also offer an opportunity for students to take courses, virtual courses online through Eduseer, which is our provider for our online courses. Our proposed changes for next year in our art department, we're looking to add pre-AP Studio Art 3D, three-dimensional. We've had pre-AP and AP Art 2D, which is our painting and drawing. This would be our ceramics for starting next year. The pre-AP would also lead towards AP Studio Art, so our anticipation is that we have a number of current sophomores who would be eligible to enter the pre-AP Studio Art 3D for next year, and then complete the second year of AP Art the following year. So we'd anticipate for the 16-17 school year introducing AP Studio Art 3D. In our computer science area, we had a large number of students enroll in our Intro to Computer Science 1 and 2 this year. We're anticipating that number growing within our computer science sequence. So what we're looking to do is add honors computer science principles. We're calling it an honors course because College Board, the year after next, has approved the course as an advanced placement course. So in lieu of waiting an additional year, we're looking to bring it in as an honors course for next year, and it would turn into an AP course the following year. So we would be offering an honors computer science principles, and on the other side, we'd have AP computer science, which we have run when needed over the last 5, 6, 7 years. We're also looking to add a semester elective called Animation and Movement. There's no prerequisite to that. It would just be a simple elective course for any student who may be interested in the computer science field. In mathematics, we're looking to introduce an algebra geometry extension course. And what this course would do, students would be identified by their current teachers through their current grades. So their 8th graders would be identified by their teachers. We'd also be using different benchmarks, such as standardized testing, to identify students who may benefit from additional support in algebra and/or geometry throughout the course of the year. We've always had a math workshop on the books, and the math workshop has really run after a student doesn't successfully pass the HSPA, they'd be put into the math workshop course to gain extra help and support in order to assist them in passing the HSPA the following year. What we're looking to do with this course is really kind of get ahead of the game and more of a preventative role in identifying students who would benefit from that support before they start taking the standardized or state tests. In our science, we're looking to bring in an Introduction to Exercise Physiology, which would be a semester course. We're excited about this course. We expect that this would be a third course for juniors and seniors to select. Currently, we run anatomy and physiology and astronomy. This would be an additional opportunity for students to select an elective in the field of science. In social studies, we're looking to bring in advanced placement art history. We already have about 3 or 4 other AP courses in social studies that students get to choose from. So we'd have to see whether this is going to bring additional students into an AP social studies course or if it would bring some students in from an AP European History or an AP Government and Politics or AP Economics. In technology, we're looking to bring in an advanced robotics course. God bless you. Much like the computer science, we do see a growth in our technology courses. We currently run a robotics course, which is a basic level robotics course. This course would be available to students who have successfully completed robotics or who come in on a teacher recommendation. We know we have a lot of students, especially in the middle school, but even in the high school, who are doing enrichment, God bless you, types of activities relative to robotics. They would also be eligible through teacher recommendation to select the advanced robotics course. And in theater, we're changing our Theater 1 course, which is currently a full year course, to a semester course. And what we're hoping happens there is students will match a 2.5 credits Theater 1 course with a 2.5 credit Theater 2 course, instead of students simply selecting a 5 credit course without ever necessarily continuing through and picking up the Theater 2. So we're hoping this will generate more interest in our theater program or theater course, in hopes that they will also be attracted to moving to the next step in the sequence, which would be our Theater 2 course. We also, about 4 years ago, we made adjustments in our health and physical education and brought our whole health program into the 9th grade year. What our staff has recognized is that there are some topics that would be better served for our students when they get a little bit older, a little bit more experience. So what we're looking to do next year is bring back a marking period worth of health into the physical education course for our juniors and seniors. And these are some of the topics that we would be pulling out or going more in depth for the junior and senior group. So we're excited about this as well. We thought it was and we still think, and we're maintaining our freshman health course the way we've had it. But we think some of these topics are going to be more relative to the students after they gain some experience and really have other responsibilities and on the verge of really becoming independent after they leave us at Chatham High School. And those are our changes. What we're anticipating doing is posting our program of studies on the website. We'll be sending it out via email through School Messenger to all of our families at the high school and 8th grade. We're also, for the first time, going to be holding class meetings with our current freshman, sophomore, and junior classes to introduce the program of study changes to the classes as a whole. So we're anticipating when course selection comes around in February that they're going to be well informed and ready to pick the courses that they are interested in.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
We've expanded the electives tremendously, which is fantastic. And while the program of studies is very comprehensive, it's a little confusing to see the progression. And I'm going to probably direct this more at Dr. LaSousa. Is there an opportunity to create those course progression sheets so that the students can see the options and the paths and even the prerequisites, so they don't get jammed up at the end that, oh my gosh, I could have taken AP Studio had I only known? I know we do that for the core curriculum. Can we possibly expand that to the electives?
Yes, I think that's a very good idea. Like you said, we've done that in all 5 core curriculum areas, especially in places where we have more than one level of course, so that students can see, if I take an honors course, will that land me in an AP course? But we haven't done as much with the electives, and there are at least 3 or 4 areas where we could probably do that. Yes, so the answer is yes, we will do that.
I think that'd be helpful, especially with all the great courses being added at the middle school and then leading, especially in the computer science, leading up to a path. That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
We do have our 8th grade curriculum night on Thursday evening, and one of the things we've done with that presentation is present a 4-year worksheet, which is a visual aid for the parents and the students to get an idea of what 4 years may look like. Mm-hmm. And we do show a progression. If a student is interested in business, they could look at that worksheet where business is put in, and they would see that sequence as it goes through. Same with each of the other elective areas that we have.
Okay.
But we could put that certainly in the program of studies or more out there for the upperclassmen as well.
Right. That'd be great. Again, it's just that they don't get too far down the path without realizing what maybe they should have, how they should have directed their courses. That'd be great. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Grove?
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Jill, you're up. Thank you.
Hi, Happy New Year. Our major change for the middle school program of studies is actually in mathematics. We currently have 2 levels of math in 6th grade, 6th grade mathematics and honors 6th grade mathematics. And we have seen that there are a group of students who possibly would benefit from moving through our sequence of math a little bit more quickly. They've shown some pre-algebra readiness in elementary levels in 5th grade. They're really at a different level. They're above grade level in 5th grade. And so what we've done with those students in the past few years, there have been a couple of them who parents have asked us if they could accelerate through our program, and we've done that. And at the end, in 8th grade, they've actually ended up in geometry on our EduSeer online program. But what we're finding is that there are more and more students who probably would benefit from having the opportunity to go through our program at an accelerated rate than is our norm. So what we decided to do was to look to take a cohort of students who we feel is advanced enough to handle pre-algebra as 6th graders and to put them in 7th grade math as 6th graders. So as 6th graders, they would be selected to go into grade 7 honors pre-algebra. And our math supervisor, myself, our assistant superintendent will be working together to create a list of specific criteria that these students would need to meet in order to be eligible for this track. And so basically this group, we anticipate between 20 to 24 students possibly that would be placed into 7th grade math as 6th graders, and they'd be in pre-algebra. What would happen the following year is, again, we have pre-algebra and honors pre-algebra. This cohort of students that took pre-algebra as 6th graders would be put into grade 8 honors algebra as 7th graders. They'd be put into our 8th grade classes and would be able to have the opportunity to take algebra as 7th graders. Our other students will take pre-algebra and honors pre-algebra as we've always had. And then in 8th grade, we have Algebra 1, Honors Algebra, and then we also have Algebraic Expressions, which is 8th grade math for students who need another year for algebra readiness. They do a lot of building the foundations for algebra so that we know that they'll be successful when they move on to algebra at Chatham High School. This group of students who started 6th grade in 7th grade math would then have an opportunity to take geometry at Chatham Middle School. And that would not happen because this group would be moving through for 3 years. This wouldn't happen until 2017, 2018. They'll be 8th graders at that point. And we'll introduce an additional course, Honors Geometry, where these students will actually sit in a class, not on EduSeer, not on an online program, actually sit in an Honors Geometry class as 8th graders. So that's the major change in mathematics that we're looking at, basically. We had a major revamp of our cycles program last year. We're thrilled with how it's going. The kids seem to really be enjoying it. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. It's so much fun to come in. I invite all of you. We've had a couple of visitors, but I invite anyone to come in and take a look at some of these classes. It's really neat to see what's happening. We're constantly reflecting and making little tweaks along the way. And based on the feedback from our supervisor of technology and our teachers, we decided to make a change and flip-flop 2 of our courses. So we currently have Grand Design Challenge in 7th grade and App Design in 8th grade, and we wanted to flip-flop them so that we would have App Design in 7th grade and Grand Design Challenge in 8th grade. The thought being that all of these courses, in all of our STEM courses and actually all of our science courses now, are all focusing on the design process, and they spend all this time working on the design process and reflecting and how to look at a problem and come up with different solutions, and when they don't work, how do you handle that, and how do you regroup and present a new solution. We felt that Grand Design Challenge was really kind of our capstone course in that, and that it would give them an opportunity to apply what they had learned in 6th and 7th grade in 8th grade, which is why we felt that we would move it from 7th grade to 8th grade. We also felt that students who were taking coding in 8th grade, there was a lot of overlap with app design and coding, so we wanted to give them an introduction to some of the basic things that they see in coding in 7th grade and use it in app design. So we just flip-flopped those 2 courses. We do realize that there are some current 7th graders who have taken Grand Design Challenge, and we didn't want to make it next year that they weren't able to have an opportunity to take 2 possible STEM courses. So those students this year who did take Grand Design Challenge, even though next year it's going to be offered as an 8th grade course, we will offer a marking period of app design for those students if they want to go ahead and take app design, because we didn't want to leave anyone out when we went ahead and made that change. So this year, we actually also changed our theater arts to an elective course this year, which is given every other day. And based on feedback from students, from parents, we're in the middle of doing our all-school production. We're realizing that there's definitely a need and a desire at Chatham Middle School for a course like this. We wanted to give students who are not necessarily actors or actresses or musicians an opportunity to be involved in theater and some of the behind-the-scenes parts of theater, lighting, sound, set design, all that stuff that's so important to the running of any kind of a production. So what we are going to do is we're going to offer another elective, which will go opposite our theater arts elective, which will be stagecraft. It'll be offered to grades 7 and 8. We have our current theater arts teacher will be able to teach that class, and in doing it in grades 7 and 8, it will not affect her also being able to continue our theater arts program at Lafayette Avenue School as well, because the grade 7 and 8 electives are in the morning, so it just makes it perfect. So kids will have an opportunity, if they'd like, to take stagecraft as an elective instead of a study hall, or if they want to do it instead of band or chorus, or that's what it'll be against. It'll actually be against chorus. It would be one semester, of course. It'd be opposite our theater arts course. So if there are actors and actresses that are also involved in the behind the scenes theater, they'll be able to take this as well. And again, it'll be 7th and 8th graders that will be eligible for the course. That's it. Any questions?
Excellent. Go ahead.
I have a question which you may or may not be able to answer right now.
I'll just make it up if I can. No, I'm just kidding.
Punt to Dr. Lucia.
In terms of the accelerated math program,
Sure.
how will it be handled with students moving in and out of that group? Let's say, there's a student that starts in one capacity in math and expresses a desire to move into that, or is that just a group that's identified, locked down, and that's it?
Sure. I mean, I hate to say that anything is set in stone, because you never know, and sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes things are overlooked, so I never like to be completely inflexible. I think what we need to let parents know, which we always do with course changes, and when parents sometimes don't go with our recommendation, or sometimes we do make a mistake, there are other implications when we need to make changes. So we want to keep that flexibility. We don't want to keep kids in a course that they're not going to be successful in, nor do we want to keep kids out of a course that they would be successful in. So we try to be as flexible as possible, but we need parents to know up front, which we will share with all of them, that any course changes that we make do have a greater effect on their students' schedule. So it may change their schedule drastically, because some of these are a bit singleton courses. So as long as they understand that there may be changes to the kids' overall schedule, but if we feel it's in the best interest of the student, we're going to go ahead and do it.
Thank you.
If I could just continue on that same line. So the group, correct me if I'm wrong, when they get to 8th grade, they'll be in the honors geometry. It will be the same exact cohort. There's no other group would really be eligible for that honors geometry. It's the group that started in that progression.
Every so often there are students who, after 6th grade, that we maybe would not have identified, but it's something they're interested in, that will maybe do an enrichment program over the summer, or do something it's something that they're really aiming for. We don't want to say that these kids won't be able to do it. We just really wanted to avoid people switching or trying to skip grades when it wasn't really as appropriate. So to skip 7th grade math is not as appropriate as skipping 6th grade math per se. So that's why we wanted to identify them as they came into 6th grade.
And the pace and content of the 7th and 8th grade maths will be identical, even though the 6th graders have joined them.
They'll be in the class with the 7th and 8th graders. It won't be a separate class, so they'll be mixed. It'll be the same exact experience. Great.
Does anybody else have any questions? I think the cycle offering has been a huge success from all
great.
accounts. It's been able to offer kids a wide variety of offerings, and Mr. Groh is going to get quite a crew when they finish middle school and hit the high school running.
I want to take some of the classes.
I do too. I do too. So this is great. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you both.
Oh, I thought you were going to. No, I'm going to shut down. Does that conclude the superintendent's report as well?
Yes, it does conclude the superintendent.
Very good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Moving on to Mr. DeQuilla for the business administrator's report.
Would just like to report the high school Phase 2 construction update. Contractor continues to make steady progress. He is almost finished with the vinyl floor installation, and he should have a temporary certificate of occupancy right around the beginning of February, so he'll be on schedule. The reason that he will only have a temporary certificate until the springtime is he can't complete the outdoor work with the grading until spring due to the weather.
Just landscaping,
Just landscaping will be the only item left over.
provided the temporary CO goes okay.
We don't anticipate any issues. The building inspector, in my comments with him, has commented that he's doing a very good job, and any comments or he's had along have always been addressed promptly. So we are moving along at a rapid pace.
Excellent, very good. Mr. Grow, do you agree? You're on site every day?
I'm on site every day, a couple of times a day. It looks great.
Excellent.
Fantastic job.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you for keeping such a close eye on that huge project. Moving on to committee reports. Personnel first, Ms. Kenny?
Yes. The Personnel Committee just met at 6:45, and we discussed a couple of personnel issues, one relating to, mostly relating to restructuring of some personnel, some organizational changes within Dr. Sousa's group.
Any questions for Lotta? Seeing none, moving on to Ms. Kenny, or Ms. Cronin, sorry, Kim, for curriculum.
The last time we met was just to go over the program of studies that the two principals have presented. And that's it.
Okay, very good, thank you. Moving on to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan? No.
We
We're
have not
meeting
met,
Wednesday.
meeting Wednesday.
We have not, but we have a lot to talk about during board business.
What time is that meeting? 6:30 on Wednesday?
6:30.
And policy and planning, Mr. Belding?
Policy and planning has not, excuse me, policy and planning has not met, although there is one item on the agenda tonight from a prior meeting, and I don't know that we have another meeting scheduled until February, perhaps. March at this point, so if other items come up, we will schedule.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Liaison reports, Mr. Connors, we're going to throw it to you for the borough report.
Nothing to report from the borough.
Thank you. Ms. Clark for township?
Nothing to report from the township.
Excellent. Athletic boosters, back to you, Mr. Connors.
Unfortunately, I missed they had a meeting last Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday. I will fill in, I missed it, but I'll fill in the next meeting. I know they had the Christmas
Hoops.
fundraiser, and I know they always give a report at the end of that, and I do apologize for not being prepared to respond, but I will fill everybody in next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Connors. And that's okay, so I'm going to take up all of your time with the Music Theaters Booster Report, so I appreciate you not having a report. So the Symphonic Band and the Wind Ensembles demonstrated their instruments and performed some spirited holiday pieces down at ECLC for the students on December 17th. Following a standing ovation, which I'm sure made their heads swell, they were able to take some photo ops with the students down there and share some stories back and forth, and they've built a very nice rapport, so much so that the director of the school down there has asked the students to come back in the spring and perform again. And Mrs. Piano Kaiser took her 6th, 7th, and 8th grade theater classes to experience the musical Elf at the Paper Mill Playhouse on December 19th, which was a very successful trip for all of them. And also, just to remind everybody, or just to, I mentioned some of the holiday activities before the break, and there was a couple that hadn't taken place yet. So on December 22nd, Milton Avenue school teacher Veronica Shaw gave an all-school assembly where students in grades 1 through 3 shared their favorite holiday songs from concerts and kindergartens, recited a program. Not done yet, stand by, got a lot to offer. This is why we need a new auditorium. The Chatham Music Theater Boosters sponsored their annual, do you like that plug?
The reports are going to be even longer.
They are, look at that, Dr. Clapp hooks me up. The Broadway Under Stars fundraiser was this Friday. As everybody that comes to these meetings know, that's my absolute favorite performance of all the year because the kids get to do their solo pieces and they get to choreograph their own pieces. So instead of it being scripted or dictated, they get to do their favorite pieces and they get to do solo pieces and pieces with their friends. So that's just a fantastic night, and that was on Friday night, and the kids did a great job. Also, the high school concerts are this week. There's a concert tonight for the orchestra and chamber orchestra under the direction of Crystal Grazer, and Mr. Conte will lead the symphonic band and wind ensemble on Wednesday, January 14th. And also mark your calendars for the Chatham Middle School performance will be February 5th, 6th, and 7th. There are 80 actors, puppeteers, and musicians, and there's 75 students and parents involved in crew, so it's most of the school is involved in some way or another, and get your tickets early because those shows sell out all the time. This is the Little Mermaid Junior. is the title of the show. Thank you for asking. And then on Tuesday, February 17th, the middle school 8th grade band, under the direction of Christy Spriggs, will be performing at the main concourse at the Prudential Center prior to the New Jersey Devils hockey game. And after their pregame performance, the families will be seated in, they call it the party zone, but it's really like this great fan room where they get to oversee the stadium. And so they have this whole room to themselves and they're going to watch the hockey game. So if you're down at the stadium, please go watch the kids perform. The band performs at 6:45 and the game starts at 7:30. That is my music theater report. Again, thank you, Dr. Klemp. And the Chatham Education Foundation, Ms. Kenny?
Yes, the Taste of Chatham, which CEF sponsors, will be held at Fairmount Country Club on February 27th. This year, tickets will be limited to 300 people, so get your tickets quickly. And I believe prices will be $120 per ticket.
Do you know when they'll go on sale?
Oh, I don't. Do you know when they're on now?
Oh, they're on now, thank you.
And lastly, we're accepting a donation of approximately $5,000 from CEF tonight.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. PTO Recreation, Mr. Nonamaker is not present. PTO District Cabinet, Ms. Cronin?
Not met, nothing to report.
Okay.
We did meet on Wednesday. That's
Sorry.
okay. And we discussed a number of items. One of them was trying to streamline some of our character education programs that we have running in the district, and focus them, and maybe find folks who are relevant for the K through 3 level. And I'd say that was the main point worth mentioning here.
Streamline to skinny them down, sorry, to...
Well, as you know, I have a number of different initiatives that are designed to affect some parent and student outreach. The PTOs bring in their own folks sometimes in connection with principals and with student assistance counselors. So the discussion was about whether the district cabinet should look to maybe partner with me, for example, to provide resources and try to just have a more coordinated effort when we go after some of these character education
Got it, okay. Just
programs.
cohesive across the... Great, thank you. Okay, moving on, I'd like to pass a motion to pass the minutes of our previous public session on December 15th, 2014.
Second?
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions from December 15th, Mr. DeCrow?
Mr. Connors and Ms.
Oh, Mr. Connors and Ms. Clark, thank you.
Abstain.
Then they say abstain.
Trying to figure out.
And,
Yeah, I was at the meeting, so.
602.
Excellent, thank you very much. Before we have our first opportunity for public commentary, I just want to remind folks again, we have 2 opportunities for public commentary, one after our initial liaison committee reports and superintendent's reports, and then another one after we go through the agenda. Again, just to remind folks, if you want to go to a microphone here, if you want to go over there, that's fine, we can hear you. Please remember to face the board, use the microphone if you want. Please be very respectful of each other and the administration and the board. If you could limit your comments to 3 to 4 minutes to make sure everybody has an opportunity to speak. And also, if things become overly repetitive, maybe just say I'm in favor of that, or ask your group to stand up and instead of having 10, 15 people say the same thing. But so this is our first opportunity for public commentary. If you would be sure to sign in when you approach either side. And Mr. Kellstrom, you're here to speak, right? You're on your trail to Eagle, right? Oh, if something comes across your mind, Mr. Kellstrom, I want you up here with a question. We love to hear from students, so if you have an opportunity, anything that comes to mind, you just throw it out.
Good evening, I'm Alan Ruth, 82 Fairview, Chatham Township, and on behalf of Chatham Education Foundation, as Ms. Kenny mentioned, we're pleased to present a check for $5,554.74 tonight for 4 grants, 2 for Lafayette School, 1 combined Lafayette and Chatham High School, and 1 for Chatham High School. And we're running 67% ahead of this time last year for grants. So the grants are coming in fast and furious, and we like that. Also, our donors are being very generous this year. Donations are running quite a bit ahead. But we've also got some big grant submissions that would put us well over our grant budget. So the Taste of Chatham is even more important than usual for raising the funds for that. So you can sign up now for Taste of Chatham. We just opened it up, and it is limited. We're reducing the number of people to attend because last year it was too crowded, and we're increasing the amount of food and the variety of food. So it should be a better buy this year and more enjoyable this year, but you do need to sign up early. So I'd like to present this check to Dr. L'Souza.
Thank you. Are there any other public commentaries? You're all going to save it for later? Going once? Going twice? Okay, moving on to personnel. Everybody's excited to get back to the football game. Moving on to personnel, our regular agenda. Ms. Kenny, would you mind moving the personnel items?
Yes, I would like to move items A1 to A17.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, Mr. Belding?
I would just like to, in furtherance to the comments that Dr. L'Souza mentioned earlier about one of the retirees, just to add a brief note, recognition of Peggy Melvin from the Milton Avenue School is retiring after many years. I don't know how many, but many enough to have followed her protégés not only through kindergarten, but through their entire spectrum of involvement with the Chatham Public Schools, and to have, from my observation, attended many of their graduations from high school, having stayed involved with their progress in their lives throughout. I don't know if we take this for granted here. I hope we don't. But if this is a illustration of the kind of involvement and commitment and sincerity that is common in this district, I think we should all be proud of it, and I hope that this kind of commitment will get recognized and be used as an illustration for the younger staff that come into the district. I find this to be, really superior, and I happen to know her personally, but not, this is not an advertisement. I think this is totally sincere, and I find it tremendously admirable. So I commend the district, and I commend this kind of involvement and commitment. And it's a shame that, it does ultimately come to an end. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Belding. There are several members of the staff who are retiring who are residents of either Chatham Borough or Chatham Township. She's one of them. And she is someone who I believe had her students 12 years prior write notes to themselves when they were going to graduate from high school as kindergartners. And she finds a way to deliver those notes to students, I believe. And she is definitely someone who I've heard from Principal McCarthy. High schoolers will come back and visit her and look for Ms. Melvin in the hallway and in her classroom to say hi or say farewell if they're graduating. So you're exactly right. She and others who are retiring have had just a tremendous impact on the community overall for a very long time.
My intent was not to single her out, it's just that I have some personal experience there. My guess is that all these people have comparably acquitted themselves, so thank you.
Any additional discussion on the personnel items? Mr. DeQuilla?
Agenda items A1 to 17. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Belding?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Mr. Franz?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes, I'd like to move action items B1 through 19 on your regular agenda, and then items 20 and 21 on your addendum.
Second.
Way too many things to speak to in terms of thanking everyone for the donation, so we'll put out a blanket thank you from the donation perspective. And then Alvin, as you kind of stole my thunder, but it's all good. Just one I do want to highlight, though, because I think this foundation and this family has done a phenomenal job in Chatham, which is the John Taylor Babbitt Foundation, and they have donated a number of AEDs to sports fields around the town of Chatham, and also I think paid for the upkeep of these systems. They've donated another one now at almost about $2,000 for one at the media center at the high school. It's been a great family to this town. It was a tragic situation that happened to their child, but we've been able to, in some ways, make something good out of it. have the foundation.
I just have a question. I had written that, this is at Lafayette School, and it's a portable one. There is another one at Lafayette, or is, okay, so, because I felt like the media center was a little kind of off the beaten track. Right, thank you.
I had one question. I believe the check was for 5554 from Chatham Education Foundation.
55, 54, 74.
Okay. Just as noted, it says 5404.
There was an additional $250 that needed to be done to be added to it. So there was an additional item. So it will be noted that number 9 is amended.
Any additional?
I was just gonna ask, what about the donation from the JCs to pay for the filming? Do we need to have that as an action item, to accept that money?
Although I don't think we've accepted any money just yet, but
We have not, I need to,
it's a good question. I just don't think we've received any.
I need to finalize the discussion with Mr. Heap, now that we've settled the issue with Mr. Salvis for the ticket.
Okay, very good.
I trust that he is an outstanding gentleman and will not go back on it.
I don't know about that, but I think he's good for the money. Thank you, Rich, see? Thank you again for the JCs and Mr. Heap. We appreciate that. Any other discussion on the personnel items? Oh, finance, I'm sorry. Nope, going once again, Mr.
Agenda
DeCola?
items B1 through B21 with 9 amended and 20 and 21 on the addendum. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Belden?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Mr. Franz?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes, thank you.
Agenda items passed 8-0.
Okay, fantastic. Moving along to curriculum, Ms. Cronin?
So I'd like to move actions items C1 through 4 on the regular addendum and, the regular agenda, and then the addendum item C3, which really should be 5. And the other thing is, from a wording perspective, and I think Mrs. Weber pointed this out in the past, action item C1, we didn't receive a report, but in the,
The wording was changed to
Yes.
say that there is none.
there is none.
to
So it's not
report.
really received, so it should just be that, yes, we're noting that there are no
There's no incidents.
incidences to be reported.
I think we'll keep it there as a placeholder, though, just so we don't
Okay.
forget that item.
Yeah, so just because it said receipt of.
Yeah, I agree.
The title
The
does
title,
not
just the
match the
title,
wording of
right,
the
the
agenda.
title
Thank
should
you.
just be, right.
But rather than toggle it in and out, I'd rather leave it as a placeholder.
That was my opinion also.
Gotcha, okay.
Did somebody second the motion? I'm sorry.
I did.
Thank you, Rich. Always on it. Any additional discussion? I just have a comment about, so some kids are going to the Google headquarters where things move at lightning speed, followed by moving to the Morris County Courthouse where the scales of justice tip a little slower.
Just a bit.
Just this kid. Those are great field trips.
We want our students to have a diverse set of experiences.
That'll do it. Any additional discussion, other than my sophomore commentary? Mr. DeQuilla?
Agenda items C1 through C4, including the addendum. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Belden?
Yep.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Mr. Franz?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes,
Agenda items passed 8-0.
thank you. Moving on to policy, Mr. Belding?
I'd like to move item D1.
I'd like to second it.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion on policy D1? Mr. DeQuilla, do you mind?
Agenda item D1, Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Belden?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Mr. Franz?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes, thank you.
Agenda item passes 8-0.
So now we're going to move into the board business portion of the program, and I would like to start off this portion of the agenda, and then obviously have board members fill in. So we just wanted to bring back a lot of discussion points that keep coming up related to the referendum. Specifically, 3 frequently come up. The public has asked us a number of times maybe to go back, sharpen our pencils, and examine the scope a little bit, and also consider the second request that we've heard, while not frequently, but enough to to bring a point of discussion is to possibly consider breaking up some of the project into separate second questions. And the third topic that comes up frequently is additional public sessions to talk about the referendum with possibly a slightly more open format rather than pushing information out, maybe receiving information in again. So just a quick summary on all of those. So we have gone back and we have sharpened the pencil, and Mr. Gilfillan is going to go into the specifics of that. So we have heard that, and we have met as a finance committee. We've met whenever we run into each other. So for the last several weeks, or even better part of a couple months, we've been talking about it constantly, whether we run into each other on the street, a wrestling match, or while the Chatham men's varsity team beats Delbarton. We talk about it constantly. So we've taken it seriously, and Mr. Gilfillan is going to talk about that in a second. I also want to touch on the subject of breaking the second question into several questions. And again, just to be clear on the second question, I just want to make sure folks understand how that works. Question number one is the base budget, and then subsequent questions become the second, third, and fourth question. If you break questions up, if the first question doesn't pass, the rest of the questions will not be allowed to pass either. So there's some trickiness, but I don't believe, and the board can speak for themselves, obviously, which they have in the past. On several occasions, the board have expressed their opinions, and we don't believe that anything has changed since we've put out our last position. We believe that these are all very high priority items. We believe that the timing is correct. We believe that we've ignored these facilities for a long period of time, and the timing wasn't right. We needed to focus on some curriculum items. We needed to increase our staffing. Some of these facilities have become so dilapidated that they are an immediate priority right now. So again, we could talk about it as a board, but we have considered breaking it into separate questions, but we believe keeping the projects together as one question is the best approach, because all of these projects are of equal priority and need to be done. So, you know, I don't think anything's changed, and certainly the board members can individually express their own opinions as they feel. But over the last several weeks, you know, while we have had a few members of the public say, you know, consider breaking it up, nothing has significantly changed that the majority has said to keep it as one project. So, you know, regardless, we still have to fund all these projects. They're all important, and we have to fix the leaky roof. We have to become ADA compliant for the American Disabilities Act. We have to abate any asbestos in the auditorium. So the money has to come from somewhere. And again, we believe that the timing is right to pass a referendum and not take it out of the operating budget, which will absolutely have a significant impact on curriculum, course offerings, and we would have to pay for those projects out of the operating budget. And we also don't believe that Chatham's alone in this. Dr. LaSuccia shared some statistics with us recently that the School Board Association has passed a statement. They submitted a statement in December that 44 districts have passed referendums, and they approved projects in excess of $700 million, $704 million. So we're not alone in this thinking. It was an 80% pass rate. So we're not an outlier on timing. We're not an outlier on the need to improve facilities and projects. But again, so it's not that we're not talking about it. We are taking a hard look at it. We are sharpening the pencils. We are considering alternatives. So again, I'm going to ask Matt to go through the details on what the Finance Committee has discussed and what the board members have discussed over the last several weeks regarding the sharpening the pencils. And then if we want to go down the line again and state or restate positions, we can do that.
Yes, as of the last meeting, the figure was just north of $28 million. So we, having listened to the public and people talk about the impact that would have on taxes in town, we asked the administration to go back and see whether there were areas that we could, without reducing the efficacy of the referendum, reduce the size of the monetary ask. So there was 3 areas that were identified. One is the reduction in the size of the new auditorium. The previous design, I think, was right around 1,100 seats. We've reduced that to 975. This puts this facility in par with some of the new auditoriums that have been built in the last number of years at Watchung Hills, which is 957, and at Berners, which is 1,000. I think it's also in line with what Basking Ridge did. This 975 people will continue to allow us to accommodate the entire middle school when it is possibly erected, and also we are not reducing anything, I don't believe, in terms of the other aspects of the auditorium that we wanted, which was the build rooms and all that other storage rooms. So it'll be basically in the overall size of the structure being reduced. That does allow us to reduce that figure by $1 million. There's one that was a little bit more contentious, where we can take some more money out of that, is if we do not need to build a overpass between the middle school and the auditorium itself. Oddly enough, it's quite an expensive endeavor. However, the question is whether or not it is mandatory from a safety perspective, whether or not we can manage that flow of students between middle school and the auditorium in a safe manner. If we decide we cannot, we will need to put in that overpass. The second is we looked at reducing the turf project behind the high school. So instead of turfing that total area, we're going to look at turfing 2/3 of it. It still brings us 2 fields for the fall season, and then we'll have a full-on baseball field and softball field for the spring. That saves another $1.1 million. We are looking at eliminating the class build at Southern Boulevard. Before you jump over the table at me, realize that there is a method to the madness, and what Dr. L'Souza has proposed is we can move 2 special education classes from Southern Boulevard over to Milton Avenue School, with the additional classrooms at Milton as well as Lafayette. We'll basically have a net increase still of 6 classrooms, which allows us to meet the goals of the facility expansion. That saves us another $1.48 million. All of that in brings us back down to a rough $25 million figure. If we do not do the overpass, we can save, I think, another $1 million possibly. The net figure at that point is still to be adjusted. So even though at that point we still do a 25 headline figure for a referendum, once we take in debt service awards from the state, the actual net figure to the taxpayer and down will be not significantly lower, but below that $25 million figure. At $25 million on the average Chatham Township household, at a $763,000 valuation, it's less than $200 a year, and that'll be around, for the borough, for that same figure, around $178, somewhere in those figures, give or take a few pennies. We are going to do another public hearing on January the 28th at the high school. We could also plan on doing additional public hearings to get continued feedback on this. As Jill said, I should say I am, Jill, I guess in particular, are still supportive of doing this as one single vote due to the fact that all the things that we are taking on in this referendum are of importance to the continued growth and excellence of the Chatham school system. This isn't the end of trying to fine-tune these figures. We will, as we said, continue to try to work them not so much down, but make them a lot more definitive in terms of what we're going to ask of the public. I don't think I'm missing anything. No. So that's it. So that is that's where we stand right now in terms of the thought process. This will be continued to be refined at the facility and finance meeting on Wednesday of this week, and we will come back with continued feedback at the next Board of Ed meeting.
Thank you, Matt. Before we go down the line, Lotta, just give you a heads up, I'm going to start over there. Matt, what are your thoughts on the format of the January 28th meeting? Time box it to about 2 hours, 7:30 to 9:30, and...
Max.
Okay.
And then very small commentary. You can't let people dominate the mic for 15 minutes at a time, but I'm not quite sure what we're allowed to do from 7 o'clock. 7
Oh,
o'clock.
7, I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's at the high school, and I think that basically the public knows what we're trying to do through good work
Except for
in the
maybe
press,
these new additions.
which will be highly positive. Will probably make it into the press over the next couple of days. So I think we should just, continue to do feedback and question and answers, and let the people be heard.
Okay, very good. Time box it, though, a couple
Yeah,
hours?
oh God, yes.
Okay.
And not a Monday night of the national championship.
Try and work that out. So, I don't know if you want to go down, or if you don't.
Well, I actually just have a question, in terms of eliminating the Southern Boulevard, build, does that mean that the 2 classrooms will be freed up because they'll be moved to Milton?
Yes.
So, they're
Yes.
getting, as a
Yes,
classrooms
we're still getting a
freed up.
net new additional 6 classrooms through
And
this whole
2 of
process.
each facility.
2 of
Two
each facility, yes.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Anything else, Lada, or?
No.
You're good?
No.
Michelle, did you want to?
Do we have like a timeline that we, like the final timeline that we have to submit? When is that? Because I feel like.
I don't have the actual dates, but we're waiting for the state to come back, the Department of Education to come back with the debt service, which should be by the end of January. And I believe we have to commit to the figures in March, around the same time as we.
Oh,
But shortly after the debt service number comes in,
Yeah,
we should be landing.
okay, and in terms, I mean, I still think we need to keep this in one question.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Franz?
Where would the overpass be envisioned?
Well, okay.
I have a book.
This, it goes from the stairwell, in essence, that services the existing auditorium at the middle school and angles over to the facility. The design of it is, from what I can look at, is safety related. And the question is can we, it's very, oddly enough, it's quite expensive too, to get this overpass. Of course, we're always going to make the primary decision based upon safety, but if we want to continue to whittle down this overall net impact from a referendum basis, we could possibly work out some form of system. Right.
And Matt and I have argued, Matt and I have debated extensively over this.
Personally, it's a very simple question for me. If they tell me it's a safety issue, then I'll support it 100%. If we can figure out a way to manage without it, the 3-second walk from the middle school into the auditorium should even the Chatham children should be able to manage that.
Is there any way to, redirect the traffic pattern that you can?
Well, I thought of that, actually. I was walking through the streets of the city the other day, walking by maybe the UN or something, and I saw that gate come up, so maybe a possibility at times of when there is a possibility for children to be going back and forth between the two facilities, is that we put a gate up, there's no restricted traffic for the 4 minutes, whatever that is, and then once the kids are cleared through, it goes down and we'll go back to regular traffic pattern. I think there are ways to handle this without the expense of an overpass, but that's for us to discuss, I guess.
I'll just say, Lada, Peter and I had a conference call with the architect for about an hour on Friday, and Peter met with him on Thursday afternoon. He strongly advises retaining the structure for safety and some other reasons. But we have been...
Keeping the current.
The bridge.
Keeping the bridge across, so that you don't have constant egress and ingress anytime you use the facility. And if you want to, you can direct flow, foot traffic from an interior point of view as opposed to having to go in and out. But we have been talking with him, and we'll have updates for the Finance Committee about other ways to try to, like Matt says, narrow that cost down to bring it lower than the first figure that we've had. So he's working on that, and we should have some updated numbers by the meeting on Wednesday night. Also, I'd just say that with Milton Avenue School, building the 4 classrooms there reflects building up and taking advantage of the 2-story addition. That ends up being really the most cost-effective expansion, whereas Southern Boulevard School was the most costly just because of the nature of the building and the location we had to build. So if we do put 4 classrooms on Milton and 2 on Washington, and then move 2 of our current programs from Southern to Milton, we'd still have a net gain of 2 in each of the elementary schools.
Thank you. Phil, were you done?
Are there any sketches, or will there be sketches at some point that we can visualize this, see the project itself?
Yeah, we have the base, we have
You
the,
mean all phases of the project, right?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one I'm curious about is the auditorium, but, yeah, I'll look.
Without spending excessive
Right,
amounts of money
right.
with the architect prior to it passing, because if it doesn't pass, I don't want to spend thousands of dollars at the architect.
right, and that's been the counsel of the architect, that we have these base plans that have to go to the DOE in order to figure out what they're willing to fund in terms of debt service. So we have those available. But it's not until after a referendum passes that typically the architectural firm then sits down with principal players, whether it's members of important groups or principals or board members or administrators, to then really get into the detail of what the facility would look like. This goes for every project that we're contemplating.
Did this architectural firm work on any of these other auditoriums?
Yes, in fact, we were speaking with them on Friday about various projects that they've had, the cost per square footage, the size and scope of those projects, so on and so forth. We'll probably, the architect recommends that in working with other districts, once a referendum is passed, obviously if a referendum is defeated, there's no, it's all moot. But if a referendum is approved, then they can schedule visitations to several other facilities so that the people who are involved in the decision-making can see what the possibilities are. Usually there's some kind of sequence of meetings that takes place so that they can get as much input as they can into the type of function and design and everything else that we would need.
Which ones did they, was it, you know which one they were?
I know Montgomery was on the list. Somerset Hills was on the list. They're doing some work with Somerset Hills, although I don't believe they constructed there's a new auditorium there, but I don't think they were the architects who built it. They're doing work, though, to, refurbish it. I don't recall the others right off the top of my head right now. But I also have been in contact with other superintendents, like the one at Berners Township and Watchung Hills Regional, and we can absolutely visit their facilities whenever we want.
Hold on. Mr. Belding, any commentary?
No comments or questions at this time.
Great, thank you. Mr. Gilpin, we're going to skip over you and you can conclude, Ms. Cronin. Mr. Connors?
Just a few. Just following up on the last comment, I think it would be worthwhile for at least a rough sketch to be prepared. Maybe not of the auditorium, because I think there's a lot of flexibility in that, but of the schools. I think we're asking the people to vote on something. I think they should have a general idea of what it's going to look like. And having worked with architects, it's not that difficult of an undertaking to do. Just something, put it in pencil.
We have the schematics. I mean, we have the...
Yeah, but I think that should be made available.
Okay.
If it has, great. If it hasn't, I would ask. I'm not suggesting a detailed, overly expensive draft, but I think that they should know what we're proposing. I think it's important for the public to also know that nothing has been etched in stone with regard to the referendum and with regard to whether it's ultimately going to be agreed to. We're discussing and we're urging input from the various portions of the community. So I hope one and all can show up on the 28th. But I would also ask that another session be scheduled. It's my understanding that there are a number of people who cannot make those weekday meetings, either because of work or family commitments. I would ask, and I know this is going to be a burden on my fellow board members and the administration, but perhaps a Saturday morning. This is an important item, and there may be people who can't make it. And it may be members of the more senior members of our community cannot get out on the 7 o'clock. That's dark. So I would ask that we give serious consideration to a Saturday morning session. I would also urge my fellow board members to keep an open mind I know you have preferences, but I would urge that we keep an open mind as to all possibilities and all alternatives. When you tend to have preconceived notions, you start filtering information that you're getting to either agree with your position or to use it to reject another position. I would ask that you keep an open mind. We're asking the public to undertake a significant undertaking. While a $200 or a $178 increase may not mean a lot to some people, I know for a fact, in speaking with certain people, that is a significant assumption on their part. They're willing to do it, but they also want to be heard. And I please ask all of us to keep an open mind and don't have any preconceived notions until we hear from all of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belding?
I hope I'm not being naive in assuming that the 28th, we would automatically plan to have projection size schematics of what we're talking about, further to Mr. Connor's comments. I'm assuming that we're going to have some reasonably professional drawings of the various enhancements that we're talking about, not only in the auditorium, to the extent that we can at this point. And also that we will have that grid that we promised people that identifies each item on the list and what is the specific value that those enhancements will bring to the school system. Not necessarily a monetary value, but a statement of what the specific value is that enhancement will bring to the district over other alternatives or leaving it as it is. So easy enough to phrase, but I'd like to see that in a discrete fashion so that people can identify with each aspect of the project, other than simply in a verbal sense, in a general, value sense that we have presented so far.
That we will definitely have after the finance meeting on Wednesday, once we have numbers that can go into that matrix. We have the sketches from the architect. I think one of the questions, they're big and we have to get them in a format that is easy to project or easy to post, and we'll ask him for that. But I think really some of what you're describing more I think is closer to a rendering, like a rendering so that you can visualize what a building would look like instead of some kind of, aerial shot of, square footage and a footprint.
Where it is feasible to do so within the time allowed.
Rich, just so you know, I did go to the Seniors Center board meeting on Saturday of last week. They're quite excited about what we're doing in terms of integrating the Board of Education into the Senior Center and trying to figure out ways to work better together. A couple things. One, I did offer them if they wanted to set up a specific meeting just for seniors, sponsored by the Senior Center. We would go and present and take all the questions specific to that entity in town. And then coming from that, we're back to, Mike, what I always felt is we have 50% of the town in this, the homes in this community don't have kids in the school system yet pay taxes. So I didn't know, where are we from a communication perspective? When you put out your district newsletters, your district-wide newsletters versus the individual schools, does that just go to people who have kids in the school system, or does that go town-wide?
The one that I sent, the ones that I send via email, like the one I sent last week, is just to parents in the district.
Mm-hmm.
The budget newsletter on an annual basis goes to every person every resident of the community. So for anything to do with the referendum, similar to the budget, we would send those to every resident in the community.
District, the one thing I think would help us as a school district, and I think what we need to do better is, I'm not quite sure how much we show our appreciation to people who don't have kids in the school system, how much we appreciate what they're doing in terms of just contributing tax dollars to the school system. And I think the biggest thing we need to do better then is increase the level of communication somehow, like between us and everybody in the town, because I really think we need to position ourselves whereby everybody feels a part of the district. Even though you don't have children in the district, you feel a part of that district. So I think the greatest thing we could do is figure out ways to increase the level of communication between the district and everybody in town, not just the people who have children in the school system.
Just to follow up on, if I may, Joe?
Sure, absolutely, Rich.
I know the township, and I'm pretty certain, I know the borough does, and I'm presuming the township has a cable, and they have a cable channel that you can watch their meetings, and I know they'll have advertisements and information.
That you're live on right now. Did we forget to tell you that?
No, I see that. But I'm wondering can we impose or ask that the township and the borough post an advance notice of the meeting on the 28th? on their, because I know you go to TV, whatever channel it is, forgive me, I don't know what channel it is, but they'll have advertisements and they'll have information of upcoming events. Since we're all kind of one community, at least in terms of the education of our children, I think they hopefully would be willing to do that. I don't know if that's going to cost anything, but perhaps we can get that out. And also, in reaching out, we could probably speak with our respective contacts on the borough and the township council, asking them at their next meetings to not take a position, but at least advertise the meeting on the 28th to elicit input. I think that would probably also get the word out as well, because I do think we fall somewhat short in getting the word out to the members of the community that don't have children in the district. And I think that's options, as well as the press that's here, and thank you very much. But that may be another way of getting it, because I know people do watch those channels.
We can do that. I would say also that Mayor Harris and I talked like a month ago maybe about, he had interest in having us provide the borough and of course the township also with video of events or special programs that we have going in the schools. Just so that they could, if they have dead time on their respective channels, they could just put up a graduation ceremony, for example, or a holiday concert or whatever. So that might be a way to reach more people. But I will, Peter and I can speak with the administrators in the borough and the township to see if they would be willing to ask their elected officials to make mention of the meeting on the 28th, and otherwise apprise their respective publics of whatever events we have.
Have we offered to go before the borough and the township council to do a demonstration or make a presentation?
I've gone the last,
we have,
I know Matt met with a couple of.
Oh, I know that, but I mean actually going to their meetings and.
I'm sure they would welcome.
That's another way of getting it out there, because there is a lot of people watch those shows, the meetings.
Schedule a lot of our time.
Yeah, which I'm making that offer. I should probably offer my services and volunteer to participate in that program.
There you go.
But I'd be more than willing to. I think we should. The more we can get out there in every meeting and mode, I think that would be, the more information's out there, I think the better off we'll be served.
And we can divide and conquer.
If we truly believe in it, then we want to get the word out.
And we can divide and conquer depending on our schedules.
I think we'll have to, Jill, because I think we conflict with the borough.
Yes,
now
we
that
do.
we've moved back to Monday nights. Mayor Harris and I talked about that. And I have gone to the township and the borough last couple of years for budget presentations.
Well, the budgets
so
we have, but I think this may
we'd
be
do the
another
same.
thing as well.
We'll volunteer John to attend as many meetings as possible, since he's not present.
Well,
With a
let's-
wrestling report.
Let's keep in mind that we're going to be engaging the public discussion in regards to the basic budget here within the same time frame, like starting almost immediately. So we need to overlap these two activities.
Excellent. Thank you. And no additional discussion on this? Before we jump into our public commentary.
Can I talk about another topic that has?
Oh, yeah,
not
sure.
Jill, it's following up on the email I sent to you and Dr. LaSouza regarding the high school cheerleading. A Celeste Stinson, who's been very active and supportive of the girls' cheerleading, apparently for a period of time, they only funded in the budget the fall season. And the cheerleading, it's a great component of the, if you go to any of the football games, they were terrific, bringing a lot of fan support. They were actually much more engaged this year, I believe, in Cougar Weekend, and I think that reflected in the enthusiasm and the presentation. And one of the questions that was presented to me was asking if the board can adopt within its budget the winter program as well.
It's on Wednesday schedule.
Pardon me?
It's on the agenda for
Yes,
Wednesday?
I was aware of that, but I just am encouraging support for that, because I think it's, and I told Celeste I would mention it during the last meeting.
I'm in support. I'm not on the
It's-
finance committee,
it's-
but I'm in full support of it.
Right now, they've been, the last couple of years, the winter program's been funded by the parents, the families, with the generous support of the boosters. And I think this should be treated as there's a lot of support for it, and I think there's a precedent set where if you get a couple of years of support, and when the families put skin in the game. So I hope that is
And
viewed favorably.
And it taps a new group of students. Some of the cheerleaders can't participate in the fall because they play a sport, but they can in the winter.
Exactly.
So it's another offering for students to participate in a high school activity. You're going to talk about that in detail on Wednesday? Good for you. Thank you. And Dr. Lusous, I just wanted to thank you for putting this out in the district newsletter. These are some great speakers coming in June, so hopefully everybody got that. The author of Wonder, Eric LeGrand, the Rutgers student, and also Ryan Bloom, a runner. So if you didn't get this, is this also posted on the district website?
It is.
Excellent. So these are some great speakers coming in. So please take a look at that when you all have a chance. Any additional board business before we move on to public commentary? No, very good. We're going to move on to our second opportunity for public commentary. If you would sign in and please announce your name and if you're from the borough or township, your address.
Good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Sal Arnick. I'm a Chatham Township resident, 37 Hall Road. I'm involved with the Chatham Music and Theater Boosters. I have 3 kids, 2 of which have already gone through the Chatham school system and are in college. 1 is currently there. I want to say thank you, and I want to express that I am thrilled that there is some support in keeping this all one referendum, not splitting it up, because I think these are all priorities. I know my daughter in marching band makes terrific use of the fields behind the school, so the turfing is important. Forgive me, I have a frog. And I have sons, one son who was very active in sports, one son who was very active in performing arts. Even the one who's active in performing arts, who's at Michigan right now, Billy, you may remember my son, he's not going to be an actor on Broadway, although I'm terrifically proud. What he's learned through the system is how to be an incredible communicator, how to look adults in the eye, how to, people who meet him, I'm not trying to brag about my son, they say, wow. I credit the theater program and the performing arts because it gave him that confidence. It gave him something that is beyond the great programs, like STEM that all the kids have. It's great to have these incredible, enriching academic experiences, but they really need, the performing arts aspect is a crucial part of the education experience, and I don't think it should be separated out, so I'm thrilled. Last point I'll make. We pay in Chatham per pupil one of the lowest amounts compared to any of our neighboring towns. Some of these towns spend $18,000 a student, some spend $15,000, some spend $14,000. We're in the neighborhood of $13,500. What that tells me is I have a tremendous amount of confidence in Dr. Lasouza and the board for being good stewards with the public's money. So if you guys decide that after 70 years, it's about time to modernize some auditoriums, and 80% of these referendums are passing around the state, and they're not outliers, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm saying thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Arnock. And I have seen Billy perform in all his performances, and he's fantastic. And he may be on Broadway, and I'm going to stalk him when he gets there. Any additional public commentary? Mr. Kellstrom, I need you to come up for on your trail to Eagle, your rank of Eagle. Are you here working on citizenship of the community?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. I know he's wearing his Chatham Wrestling sweatshirt. Good man.
We would never get out of here tonight.
If you would introduce yourself, Michael, and let everybody know your grade. Although I know it, I'd like you to state it. And what troop you're with, if you would.
Okay. My name is Michael Kellstrom. I am a junior at Chatham High School, and I belong to Troop 8. And I would like to endorse any and all improvements in our athletic facilities, especially improvements to Cougar Field. And I would like to ask if you could suggest what student athletes can do to promote the passing of the referendum in our community.
I could jump on that. Vote. A lot of your student athletes are 18. They can vote. They need to register to vote, and they need to get involved and, get involved in the community as you have done and increase your fellow students to do the same.
Okay.
I don't know if Mr. Connors or anybody else has a suggestion. I'm just going to throw vote out there because it was low-hanging fruit, and it was...
As we say in Jersey City, vote early, vote often. You can delete that one.
No deleting. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Any additional public commentary? Mr. Heap is on his way up.
Oh, boy.
And if you want the microphone, you have to go to this side. If you don't, you're fine. We can hear you. It's your call, Mr. Heap.
Remember, you are recorded.
And your group is paying for it. Thank you again.
Good evening and Happy New Year to the board. I'd like to say that you all look terrific on TV.
Especially not a maker.
Two things. First, I'm here to collect a bill if you have one ready. And second, a suggestion that I'm thinking out loud. You have decided that you need an overpass to connect the two buildings. I don't know whether you have ruled out a tunnel and whether that might be any cheaper to
We talked
build.
about it.
Already talked about it. Okay, that's it. Who can I see about the bill? All
Give
right,
him
we'll
the
see
big
you-
bill. Don't give him just this bill.
I'll see you after class.
All right. Let's take the opportunity. Is there additional public commentary? Mr. Rue?
Alan Roth, 82 Fairview, Chatham Township. Wearing my education counts hat, we sent out an email on Friday, and it mainly focused on the excellent report given by Julie Patterson on the report on graduates for Chatham High School. And it's had almost 500 views since Friday. And the average view has been almost 5 minutes. And that's fantastic. So that's one way of getting information out. And we'll be putting up videos and so on as well. Another hat that I wear is a member of the MAC, the Municipal Alliance of the Chathams, and we are absolutely thrilled to see these health programs added in the 11th and 12th grade for the high school for drugs and alcohol and mental health and other things. I think that will help our young people make much wiser decisions as they graduate from high school and go into college. So congratulations on that addition to the program of studies. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. No other public commentary? So under the Sunshine Act, we are allowed to... Oh.
If you want to be heard on the video, you would want to come over to the microphone.
You can turn that down a little. There you go.
First, I'd like to publicly thank the school and the township administration for moving forward with televising and recording the Board of Education meetings. I'd also like to thank Bill Heap of the JCs for his public advocacy on the subject and his very generous funding. And I'd lastly like to thank Tom Salvis for his extensive, tireless, and critical work in getting these recordings accomplished. This is a tremendous and commendable step towards greater transparency and best practices for the Board of Education, and a great example of being receptive to the comments and concerns of the taxpayers. With that said, I'd like to encourage the board to continue with the practice of televising and recording their meetings as part of their regular budget for next year. Given an annual budget of over $66 million, the cost to televise these meetings is negligible, virtually 0%. But the benefit to taxpayers and therefore to the students is huge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are going to break into executive session. Action will be taken, so we will return to public session. We anticipate it to be fairly brief. If you'd like to stick around, if not, we won't be upset. But we are, so I make a motion to adjourn the public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we will return again to resume the public session after a brief session. We don't know when, but you're welcome to stick around. Thank you very much. We've just reconvened back in public session, and I would like to make a motion, it's on, to pass action items A18.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none from Lotta? As long as Lotta has no discussion, we're good. Mr. DeQuilla, would you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Agenda item A18, Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes.
Mr. Belvin.
Yes.
Ms. Clark. Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Mr. Franz.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda item passes 2-0.
I would like to make a motion to close the public session.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against, opposed? Thank you, Tom.
You notice that we exercise